the frequency. Well, it's going to be the frequency, and then it's going to be, does it feel that it's good content? So making sure you're using a plugin, like SEO, we'll have to look at mine so I can tell you exactly what the plugin's called.
For WordPress?
Yeah, the SEO tool, SEO builders. We can look it up and I can tell you exactly what it is. But so that you put in keywords, and then you want to try to get the keywords that you're putting in at the bottom, get those in your first paragraph. Because Google scans, and when your keywords are what your title and your first paragraph is, then it ranks it even higher faster. Because it's like, oh, okay, they really are talking about what they said they're talking about, and it's not a spammer trying to be like, it has absolutely nothing to do with it.
How do you get good at this and get all to just do it over and over and over, or is there some sort of...
Well, we're going to talk about how to make it easier, but I think it's a lot of just making it part of your routine, but then also trying to simplify it down. Like, I am notorious for writing novels as blog posts, right? Like, you guys probably have come and been like, come on, Leah, I did not have that much time today, because I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. And it's not good. That is not good. They show that 500 words and under is much more effective, and your chances of being read is much better than when you're at like, oh, say 2,000 words.
So you save that for the newsletter.
So, well, you do two things. Either A, break it into a series. Like, and I constantly have to like go back and remind myself, this could be a series, it doesn't all have to be one. And then I get to have 3 blog posts instead of 1. So, break it into a series, or simplify it down. And I was talking to Karen Erickson. She was asking me, like, well, how do you break it down? And I was telling her, I always try to think about it as a movie. So I thought this through by, I had watched the behind the scenes of a movie that I really, really liked. The editor or director, the director I guess, right, was talking about a scene that they, a deleted scene. And he was saying, I really, really loved this scene. And it was one of my favorite ones, but I had to take it out because I realized it didn't add to the film. And I was thinking, but how could you do that if you loved it? You probably, like that just, I don't know, it didn't make sense to me. But then with my blogging, I thought about that, and that would pop in my head all the time. And I'd be like, I really love this paragraph, but ultimately I could remove this entire paragraph and it would still have, the post would still have the content I'm trying to share. So I just started removing entire full paragraphs and trying to bring it back down because I have a tendency to overwrite. Okay, so we talked about never blogging without an image, right?
Right.
We've talked about that a couple times. Okay, so writing for all reader types. So you have different reader types. Your first reader type is the skimmer. So, and I think as we talk about these, you'll realize, oh, I've been all of these at some point. So, okay, the skimmer is the person who is not going to read their words. They ultimately just want to look at your pictures. So if you don't have pictures on the blog post, they are bored. So they skim, and they'll just kind of be going down until they see something they want to see, which is basically just pictures. Your next reader type is the headliner. So they don't really read the full amounts, they just read headlines and bullet points, which is why adding bullet points and lists into blog posts can be so effective, because then your headliners get the headliner, they get those bullet points and those lists, but they don't necessarily read into everything. And then you have the absorbers, and your absorbers are the least, that is your smallest percentage by far. Most people are just coming to either skim or headline, but you have some who come and just absorb everything that you put in that post when they're interested. They say that it's really important to make sure that your very first paragraph is really engaging and opening. So above all, your most important thing is your title. Your headline is, that's what gets them to decide they want to read it. And for us, it's a little bit different because often our titles are like, our client's name or something. So I feel like we have a little bit, when we're doing our photography, it's like they're coming for our photography. But ultimately, think of that. They're coming for your photography. So you don't have to write huge, long posts for every single client. You can just give a quick little synopsis, one fun little fact about them, and call it good, and let them just look at your photography. And then you have your other posts that are maybe more informational, that are like, about a product or about, just something fun. So,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, the headliner. So I usually put like, Caitlin, then a little thing, and then senior 2013. After that, should I put like, Amlon County photography, senior photographer, or Abigail, Louisiana photographer, or whatever? Is that what shows up like? For
You should put your city. Don't
Okay.
worry about your whole name, because
Okay.
people probably aren't Googling your
already
name.
on your, it's already
And
on your blog.
And if they Google you come out top.
Do like Alavelle senior photographer. Or
Yeah, that's what you want to have on there.
That's what they're googling.
And you don't even need to worry about the date because your blog post is dated, and so Google already knows the date, and they're ranking based on the current. So don't worry about the date, just the name and the city. And and make that what your.
It also helps too, Brooke's husband Kimball actually mentioned this when I was talking to them, but it makes sense. It's funny the things you never think about that make perfect sense. It said in the title, instead of maybe putting, Pensacola wedding photographer or something, it already says that in my website highlight anyway, so it's probably going to get the ranking, but doing like what type of wedding maybe it was.
Each blog post is more current.
Like, exactly.
So you
So
just wanna
if
put
it was
something.
at a specific awesome location,
Oh,
or a
for
type
sure.
of,
You
put
definitely want to
something,
put that in.
I can't even think.
Like if you
it was
use
a
the
template.
venue,
Or it was
let's
like
say
a Margaritaville or something,
let's
which
say
is a
you
big thing for
let's
me.
say you use, for example, I get inquiries all the time for weddings at the Portland, Oregon Temple. I am not shooting weddings. I haven't shot weddings in years, and I still get inquiries, and they get sent to Kari. And
Yep.
and it's because my blog post titles say Portland, Oregon wedding photography, and so I come up in Google for that all the time.
Wait, can
So-
you go and take that out somewhere?
Yeah, I could. Probably. I'd have to find the post. I don't know where the post is.
But don't, because it
But-
gives Kari lots of
I know,
business.
but we
It
want
does.
to find
It's
the Kari,
a
so it's
Kari.
okay. But yeah, I always think it's so funny, because I'll be like, I have not shot a wedding in years. I'm like, really? Somebody else go block that for crying out loud so that they will come up.
It's the truth though. I found that made perfect sense because it's like instead of every post having so and so and so and so Pensacola wedding or photographer, that's not going to bring up as many hits on the blog. But
Exactly.
if you still make it personal, put their name and then Portland, Oregon Temple wedding or something.
Yes.
Or Portland, Oregon spring wedding or something like that.
So you
It'll
put
bring
that
up
in the title.
Okay,
Yeah,
another
I never-
really
I never
cool
do that.
trick
That's
that you
not
guys
good. I
can
didn't
use
think about it.
is
Like Joey, line, Tulsa, Oklahoma, senior.
It is.
Then anytime someone
okay.
like
AdWords Google keyword tool.
Like I just recently posted.
Yeah, they did give us this in the.
It was a really smart thing. It was something that it just made perfect sense. Just
Yeah, now that you say that, I'm like, oh, I'm totally do it every single
Yeah,
time.
every single time you start thinking, how can I be creative with this and what are people going to search for,
Yes,
What would I
and
search
okay, but
for?
there's a way to figure out what they're searching for.
Okay.
Okay, so using Google AdWords, so it's adwords.google.com, or you can just Google AdWords tool. That also works. So you get to this. So what you do is you put in some phrases that you think might work. So let's go ahead and try something. Let's come up with who wants to try with theirs?
Portland, Oregon wedding photographer.
Okay, Portland, Oregon wedding
Oh, I've
photographer.
done this. This
What
is
else do you think they could Google? Let's try something else. Same concept. What else?
Oregon
What
Coast. Oregon Coast wedding.
Oregon Coast wedding.
What
Let's
about one of
also
those
try
boys' weddings?
Photography.
wedding photographer.
Oregon.
Oregon.
Portland,
So,
Oregon.
Wedding photographer in Portland.
That's
Gosh
Portland.
darn it.
See, people for us will just put Pensacola wedding
Wedding
photographer. They would even
photographer
state. So yeah, they might just do Portland wedding
in
photographer.
Portland, Oregon. Okay, so we try out a bunch of different ones, and then
Sorexen?
X-I-V.
Jurexen.
Do we think that's what that is?
I thought it was a
G
Y.
O R E X I N.
Yeah.
Or Y.
I thought it was a
V,
Y.
V, V.
X-I-N, yeah.
No, IV.
All lowercase.
Oh,
Yeah.
IV,
Oh,
yeah.
it's IV.
Is it? Oh, I
Can't stand those
Oh my
things.
God, I need to find
Okay, so now we can actually see how they're actually ranking. So Portland, Oregon wedding photographer, high. High means that a lot of people are trying to use this. So that means it's going to be harder to break in on that one than, say, the medium one, where not as people are, but you can also see how many are actually doing it. So it's showing you that 880 monthly searches. Okay, so you can try all these different terms to figure out where you have a term that actually is like using a lot of, is like getting a lot more hits. So we've got, for Portland, Oregon wedding photographer, your competition is high. You've got 880 searching it per month. And all of those 880 are local to that area, is what they're telling you. Down here, you can then see some different variations of it. Okay, so I start going down and I look for the big ones. Like, I'm like, okay, what has 27,000? Best wedding photographers. I'm going to have a guess that that's a whole lot of photographers Googling that one, but,
You must have a lot of wedding photographers in your area, Kari.
Yeah.
Because you look like you have the same problem that I do. Like, if I go do this, it's the same thing. High. Like, if I were to bid on any of these things, I would have to pay out my butt for that because there's so many.
But what you can do is you can use this to figure out, like, okay, Portland wedding photographer and Portland wedding photographers, those ones have the higher searches. So in my blog post title, I'm going to want to have Portland wedding photographer, and next week is going to be Portland wedding photographers. And, you know, and get those into my keyword tools so that I start ranking and getting up higher. So I love using this to be able to see what are people actually what are the terms they're using.
So what you're saying is you actually use that terminology in your title
And my keywords.
Okay.
So pretty boring title name, right? Like that's certainly not attention grabbing. And we constantly hear about attention, like you're supposed to have attention grabbing headlines. And I'm like, and I called Zach Perez one day and I was like, okay, Zach, that does not make sense to me. Because I know you guys say I'm supposed to have attention headlines, but I'm also supposed to have good SEO. So how does that work? And he was like, okay, this is what you should do. And after he said it, I was like, oh, that's so obvious. Dang it. But he said, okay, so you make your title based on your SEO, based on the keywords you're trying to do. And then when you Facebook it and when you newsletter it, that's when you use your attention-grabbing headlines. So, for example, on Facebook, you're going to say something that gets them to want to click, and then you put the URL in, and they click on the URL. On your newsletter says, crazy